We hope by the end of this discussion there's a better understanding of what high-quality pre-K is in Alabama, who has access to it, who unfortunately does not, why it matters, and how you can enroll your child. And hopefully we'll walk away with a better understanding of the plan to fund a future expansion, the challenges that goal faces, and what you can do to help accomplish that goal. We're discussing this with state leaders, program administrators, advocates, and parents. They're all going to share their unique perspective on that program. And if you're following us on Facebook or Twitter, please use the hashtag pre-K4AL. That's a hashtag pre-K4AL. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. We have with us today the Honorable Bill Poole. He's a representative who has represented Tuscaloosa in the Alabama State Legislature since 2010. He serves as the chairman of the House Ways and Means Education Committee. His committee is responsible for appropriating funding for the state's Education Trust Fund, which includes Alabama's first-class pre-K program, and we're just so happy to have you here, sir.
Well, thank you very much for allowing me to join you, and thanks everybody for participating in the call, and thanks primarily to everybody at the Alabama Department of Early Childhood Education, at ASRA, and all of the other groups and entities and individuals that do so much to advance our pre-K and our early childhood education across the state. As Jeremy mentioned, I'm a state representative from Tuscaloosa, and so in my capacity as a representative, I've learned a lot about our state's pre-K program over recent years, and everything I learned is just incredible and it's impressive. And whereas I have a responsibility to represent my community to the best of my ability, I acknowledge and understand the importance of pre-K to my community, but I also take that understanding to the state level. And in my capacity as chairman of the state's education budget in the House, certainly I am an advocate of our high-quality pre-K program. The data is stunning. It's encouraging to see us excelling in an area of childhood education in the state of Alabama. And so it's been a pleasure for me to work with Secretary Ross and others at the entities that I mentioned to help try to advance and grow and promote pre-K. So having said that, I'm glad to be on the call today, and I look forward to continuing to work towards providing quality pre-K to more Alabamians in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Also with us today is Secretary of the Alabama Department of Early Childhood Education, Jeana Ross. Secretary Ross's department manages the state's first-class pre-K program and is responsible for ensuring the program's quality standards are being met in each classroom. She has led that department since 2012, and we're so glad to have her here.
Thank you, Jeremy. And I also want to thank ASRA Voices and AL.com for sponsoring this important discussion about our state's effort to provide high-quality pre-K education for 4-year-olds. You know, the Alabama Department of Early Childhood Education Office of School Readiness administers first-class pre-K, and this is a most highly acclaimed program and is nationally recognized for quality. Under Governor Bentley's leadership, high quality and greater access to pre-K has been a priority. And it's his goal that by the end of his term, all children whose parents choose for them to attend will have that opportunity. As well, our state legislature has shown strong bipartisan support for first-class pre-K with significant budget increases and actually doing some advocacy work as well. And parents, teachers, state leaders, business leaders, children's advocates have made great progress in expanding access to first-class pre-K, but we must continue working together to increase the investment so more children will be able to participate in this program that is proven to influence their success in school and life, and I just am very happy to be able to participate in this today and maybe take that one step further.
All right, thank you so much. Our next panelist is one of the hosts of today's conversation. Melanie Bridgeforth is the Executive Director of Voices for Alabama's Children, a statewide nonprofit organization whose mission is to ensure the well-being of Alabama's children through research, public awareness, and advocacy. Melanie, great to have you with us here today.
Thanks, Jeremy. And I think really, first off, a huge thanks to AL.com and all of my fellow panelists for helping to convene what we feel is a very important and necessary conversation on Alabama's program. Voices for Alabama's Children is the state's longest-standing multi-issue child advocacy organization, really here to lift up sound policy decisions before leaders at all levels of state government. And we have long advocated the importance of high-quality pre-K dating back to 2000. So we, along with several key partners, were instrumental in the passage of a statute actually creating the pilot program that we now know as first-class pre-K. So we've been at the helm of several statewide policy wins for kids, ranging from child passenger safety to healthy food financing. And all of our work is about closing opportunity gaps. And we see expansion of high-quality pre-K as one of the most critical investments our state can make to close those gaps for children. And really, Jeremy, our vision in planning today's conversation was to really provide a platform for critical information sharing between state leaders and parents, caregivers, and other community leaders. And I hope that today's conversation also spurs action from the callers here today and the thousands more that will play this recording back, particularly parents who we believe are the most critical voice in the advocacy around expansion of pre-K.
All right, our final participant is a mother of four from Baldwin County, Mrs. Christina McInnis. Christina was part of a team of parents in Baldwin County who last year successfully lobbied their state and local leaders for a new first-class pre-K site in Orange Beach. The program, which welcomed its first students in August, was the first-class pre-K classroom in Orange Beach. Welcome, Christina.
Thank you so much. Again, I appreciate this great honor to be with everyone today. Thank you, AL.com, ASRA, and the Voices. I'm here, and again, it's such an honor to really have witnessed one parent, Jeana Bullman, come from the city of Orange Beach and create awareness and change. Orange Beach did not have any first-class pre-K programs. A lot of the citizens, leaders, and so forth were not aware of it, and she was able to bring from one parent's voice awareness and change, and to see and now witness the children, the 18 children that walk into our Orange Beach Elementary School every day to receive their pre-K program is very heartwarming, and I'm excited to see it continue throughout the communities and discuss with any parent how one voice can make a change in a whole entire community.
All right, well, it's wonderful to have you. We'll get started here. We will take a look at what is high-quality pre-K, and I was going to talk to Secretary Ross if she could tell us a little bit about how the program started and a little bit how it developed, and what does it mean to be a first-class pre-K site?
Well, Jeremy, this program started, as Melanie mentioned, with 8 pilot sites, and about 15 years ago. And from those 8 pilot sites that were started just from a few state agencies, some little federal grant money, just little pieces of funding sources here and there to fund those 8 pilot sites. And from that, the next year, they funded 35 more sites. And those were done through a competitive grant process, which continues to this day. And by having a competitive grant process, when someone applies to be a first-class pre-K, that enables them to go through research and study and understand exactly what high quality is, because in their application they have to answer very specific questions to quality assurances that we know are needed in a first class pre-K classroom. And then today, and I'd say today because it changes almost daily, we actually went from those, let's see, in 2005 we had 57 classrooms, and when I came to the department in 2012 we had 217, and as of today we now have 665 classrooms. So because of the support and mostly parent demand, you know, this was a grassroots effort grown from teachers and educators in Alabama, early childhood educators, and parents seeing what a difference this program made for their children. And that's how it grew, just incrementally, carefully, and strategically. into the fine, high-quality program it is today.
Why isn't every pre-K program a first-class site?
Well, I wish every pre-K program in Alabama was a first-class site, and we're working to make that so. The difference, I think, is because we have put together a framework, a model that has very important components that are research-based. I won't get into the weeds today, but there are program guidelines and classroom guidelines such as how many square feet per child, exactly what should be in that classroom. This is a learning laboratory, and so it's very important to have the pieces of equipment necessary for those children in that learning laboratory. And I see on the screen you've got the quality benchmarks. These are your very basic benchmarks, but a first-class pre-K takes it much further than this. But these quality benchmarks that are on the screen right now, Alabama is one of only 4 states in the country that meet these quality benchmarks. So we are recognized nationally for the quality as having a #1 ranking in meeting these. And you're seeing a classroom. They all look not the same, but they still have the same basic materials, supplies, and equipment that teacher needs to be able to help that child reach developmental levels and mastery of skills that she's trained to look for.
Representative Poole, you and your colleagues have grown the level of the investments by nearly $30 million over the past 3 years. How did this become such a priority in the state legislature?
Well, I think, quite frankly, and you're going to hear me talk about advocacy and encouraging advocacy and encouraging communication about all of the positive data and the positive results from our quality pre-K program. But it's really a result of that, and it's a result of leadership from the governor's office, from Secretary Ross, from many others, and leadership in both the House of Representatives and the Senate. Because to your point, our funding for pre-K has been the fastest growing funding line item in the education budget over recent years. And, following the recession back in the 9-10 period, we've had some lean years in the education budget, quite frankly. So we've been very fortunate to be able to invest and increase our investment and expand our quality pre-K offerings. But we have a long way to go, and I think you've heard that comment made already. But I think you can attribute where we are right now and the growth and the expansion that we've seen to that leadership that I referenced.
I'd like to add, too, Representative Poole mentioned the data. PARCA, the Public Affairs Research Council of Alabama, analyzed student achievement through the 6th grade and found that first-class pre-K alumni consistently outperformed their peers in reading and math. And PARCA also found that first-class pre-K closed the achievement gap for participating low-income students by 25%. We are doing continuing studies, and we're constantly looking at the data to see exactly what kind of child outcomes we can expect. And you see these on the screen, and we have found significant differences in the children that went to first-class pre-K as compared to those that did not.
And to the Secretary's point, this is Representative Poole again, the data evidences the return on an investment. And, in the state of Alabama, we have relatively limited resources to invest. And so we have to focus very importantly and very astutely on our return on investment. And when we can invest in pre-K and see the results and see the tangible data and see what it means for the opportunities for our children, for the potential it has to close the achievement gap, for the potential it has to improve quality of life for our children as they go forward, that's the return on investment that data substantiates and evidence that's so critical.
Given the budget situation, do you foresee the continuing expansion of this program?
I certainly hope so. Now, the legislature, I'm one of 105 House members and 30 senators, and of course we have the executive branch as well. But I believe that there is a there's a firm commitment to pre-K in Alabama and to expanding our investment in pre-K, and I certainly share in that commitment. We have fluid budget processes, and the future budgets are still out there to be passed, and that's the process we go through every year. And of course, we've gone through a difficult budgeting process in recent months. And so here again, I'm going to refer back to the importance of advocacy in communities, community leaderships, local schools, that people go out and advocate to their local representatives, their senators, of the importance within the context of the budgeting process, the importance of prioritizing this investment. And I think that will facilitate the ongoing expansion and growth of investment.
Absolutely, and I know Governor Bentley in prioritizing policy is absolutely committed to pre-K expansion as well.
All right. Well, I think let's go on. What do parents need to look for when they're selecting a pre-K classroom or program?
In looking for a pre-K classroom, the first thing I would advise a parent to look for is, I would first of all ask, are you a first-class pre-K program? Now, not all of our classrooms are first class yet, but we do hope to at least have some influence over those in the coming years, and we're working very hard to do that. But what a parent would like to see when they go into a classroom is just that teacher engaged with that child. They should see children actively engaged in very specific activities, so that they're working, you'll see them working in a large group. More importantly, you'll see them working in small groups. They do a similar to a plan do review process, where those children are planning an activity, a work project that they're going to do. They're going to go through that process, then they're going to come back and they're going to review or reflect on that process with the teacher. Not only is that teaching them sequence of events and how to be responsible for what they plan to do for the moment or with their lives, but it teaches them to reflect and to decide how they might do things differently and look forward to doing it again. So it's very strategic. You should hear lots of language and talking. I would never want to see very quiet children sitting at tables with pencils and worksheets, because children learn through play. And teachers, early childhood teachers, are trained, and they know very specifically how to watch that play, how to direct that play to help that child in every domain of growth, and be able to make the most of that time that they're in that classroom.
And Jen, this is Melanie with Voices. If I could jump in there and say a couple of words as someone who's not an early childhood practitioner, and so for the untrained eye, I think I've been able to tour several sites, and what I've seen is simply amazing. For the parents on today's call, what distinguishes quality pre-K are those 10 quality benchmarks and then some that Secretary Ross has already referred to. So that's what high quality pre-K looks like. From what I've been able to see, it's individualized learning. You see children in one group reading, children in another group, working on a science project around insects. Stimulating and supportive interactions with teachers. I hear Secretary Ross continue to say the importance of engagement with the teacher. I mean, that is all very critical for a high quality early learning experience. And what I also want to note is parent involvement, which is a staple of first class pre-K. It's very important because parents are their teacher or their child's first teacher. And so to have them involved in their child's early learning experiences is critical. And so I think that's a really important point to point out about first class pre-K.
Melanie, that's a great point from a parent's point of view, and I've also not had a chance to be in the first class program yet, just because this is new, just opened in August for Orange Beach. But what I have noticed is just exactly what you said, is the parent involvement in this. There was such a family type, from what I've seen from the classroom, looking in and examining the classroom from the outside door, or watching them on the playground, or even speaking to the parents outside of the classroom when they're at work. I ran into a particular parent. She has twins in the program at Orange Beach Elementary School, and she was working at the gas station. And I said, Amy, I saw your sons at the school. They were smiles on their face, and they looked like they were having a wonderful time. And she said, I'm looking forward to I have to go read to the boys in class, so I'll be visiting them at school, going to read to their classroom. And I really appreciated how she already knew that she was going into the classroom to read with them. And again, this is a new program to Orange Beach, just launched, just started, and she's already engaged to go read to not only her sons in the classroom, but the whole class. So I really appreciate what they do to the parents in the community outside of the classroom.
Secretary Ross, is there what do parents need to know if they want to enroll their child in a first-class pre-K, or are there specific dates or income levels that they need to know? Can you kind of take us through that process?
Usually we have the enrollment, the registration for enrollment in April or early May. A lot of times some of the classrooms will wait to see how the legislative session goes to see what type of increase and if additional classes will be available. But if they'll look in the spring of the year, each classroom is required to advertise. So if they'll just start watching our website, we'll also have times where classrooms will be registering, and all children may register for this program. We try to work very hard to have a socioeconomically diverse classroom so that each parent and each child has equal access to participate.
All right. One of our organizers just dropped a link in the chat, www.children.alabama.gov. That'll tell you a lot more about the first-class pre-K visit. Secretary Ross, you mentioned economics of it. Is there a cost to parents?
It depends. That's a local decision. We do require a 25% match for the grant. The grants that are given are not ever meant to cover the entire program because it's important that the community have ownership of this program. Also, some places may charge a small tuition on a sliding scale, but no child is ever denied access if they cannot afford that tuition, if that's part of the local decision. So we also have found many of our classrooms that are also getting even city business donations to help run the classroom, as well as state businesses that have given very wonderful support to build playgrounds and maybe pay for the assessments or some technology. So we've got lots of fund sources that we try to make the most of in putting these programs together, and so that it is a community program, and keep the cost down as much as possible to the parents, if at all.
So, and if you are in a community that does not have a first-class site, what should you do?
Well, we'll be doing another grant process. We're going to open it up sooner this year. We hope to have that application available and on our website by the end of November, so that we can go ahead and start reading those and scoring them, because it is competitive. However, if you will look at this map and you see the percentage of children served, that is one of the indicators we use in prioritizing where classrooms will go. Another is each program will keep a wait list, and so when we know that in a specific area that they have had a long wait list with a lot of children on it, that will give them priority points as well in the grant scoring.
Well, before we go on to our next question, we're going to give our panelists a brief break, and we're just going to ask a poll question. And you should see that on your screen here soon. Should state leaders make expansion a priority? We'll ask you to answer yes or no. And well, I have a feeling how we know if you're here today, you probably do agree that needs to be expansion. Yeah, well, that's overwhelming. Surprise there. I came up with that question, by the way. It sounded better in my head. All right, well, let's move on to how do we make that happen. We apparently share a support for this program. Uh, Melanie, can you tell us about Alabama's plans for pre-K expansion?
Absolutely, Jeremy. And I have to say that those poll results are very exciting, and I think they are certainly are going to stand true. Today, there is at least one first-class pre-K site in every county across our state, and that's huge because we've come a long way from those 8 pilot pre-K programs that we had many years ago. So I think that speaks to obviously the investment and the commitment to expansion. Alabama's Pre-K Task Force, which is a diverse coalition of business leaders, child advocates, educators, and many, many more, have put forth recommendations to fully fund first-class pre-K by 2023. And so as a member of that task force, we are urging Alabama lawmakers to increase funding by $13.2 million annually. So this is an incremental policy win for Alabama's children. So we are about $90 million off of that goal, and we obviously are looking to see 100% of Alabama 4-year-olds whose parents want them involved in the program to be involved, and the price tag attached to that is roughly $144 million. But I would also say that there is no price for what is coming out of these programs in terms of quality education and closing achievement gaps for children. So that's our 10-year strategy, and we're in year 4 of that plan. This year we had some great success with lawmakers increasing the allocation to pre-K by $10 million. And during a time when there's a lot of holding tight to our purses and not knowing sort of what's going to happen in our state economically, lawmakers have said, the governor has said, and our leadership has said, this is a priority. And so we're just glad that they have.
Okay. Well, Melanie, Representative Poole, where does the funding to invest in pre-K come from, and what challenges stand in the way of future pre-K funding?
Well, this is Representative Poole. The funding comes from our taxpayer dollars, and the Education Trust Fund is funded primarily from income tax revenue and sales tax revenue. So those are quote-unquote, growth tax revenue, such that when our economy is performing well and folks are making more money and businesses are making money than those and buying more things at the stores, we see increased revenue on the state level. The converse holds true as well. If the economy goes into a recession, then we see those revenues fall. And so our ability to invest our state, our resources in the education budget hinges primarily upon the health of our economy. Now, we have had good fortune in the last fiscal year, FY15, that just ended at the end of September, and so we have just begun fiscal year 2016, and we've seen some good, some growth in our revenues, and so that has enabled us to increase our investment in pre-K as well as in other areas of education. And it's important to note that the education budget, the Education Trust Fund, funds every level of education in the state. And so it has to reach all of those needs across the spectrum. But certainly I can speak for myself and say I certainly understand the importance of investing in pre-K and as many of those resources, particularly in light of that very significant return on investment that we can get into pre-K and into expansion and allow access for more and more of our children, the better. But that's where the funding comes from.
And Jeremy, the only thing that I would add, I mean, who better to talk about the budget and the appropriations process than the budget chairman himself, but I would just add for those people who may not be as involved with the legislative process, and I believe Representative Poole actually alluded to this earlier in the conversation, but this is an annual process. This is not a given. And so it really lifts up the importance of advocacy. There is no substitute for advocacy. And parents represent, in our opinion, one of the strongest voices in this work because they are the demand. They represent the demand. So in an environment where there's limited resources and certainly competing interests, we will have to continue to urge lawmakers to make pre-K funding a priority.
Representative Poole, I think sometimes people maybe think their voices aren't heard by lawmakers, either state or federal level. when people reach out to the legislators and say, hey, we want more funding for this, do you think that message is being heard?
Well, I think what is important is that voices are heard in the legislature. And if I can give some advice to our listeners out there, is contact your local legislator personally by telephone or in person. We all are inundated by emails. Many we don't know where they're from. We get a lot of form emails, a lot of automatic computer generated. So contact them in person. Make it personal, make it a live contact, and tell them, I live in your district. Because when somebody tells me they live in my district, they get my full attention, because that's my responsibility to listen to them and to be aware of their concerns and to try to address them to the greatest extent I can. So make sure you contact them, and then talk about the benefits of pre-K. Talk about what it means to the children. Talk about what it means that if your child wants in the program but can't get in the program because it's not available, or if your child has benefited from the program, because legislators need to hear the results. They need to hear the need. We get lots of budget requests for, we need to fund this or we need to fund that, but I think it's important to personalize it and say why. I wanted my child to have access and I couldn't get he or she in. My child did have access and it benefited them so significantly, I wish more children. That personal connection is critical, and your voices are heard, I assure you, because they're very powerful when you make that personal connection.
All right. What exactly is Parents' Voices for Pre-K?
Jeremy, this is Melanie with Voices for Alabama's Children. I'll take that one. So really, we feel like what better advocate is there for what's best for children than their parents? And so last fall, with funding from the Annie E. Casey Foundation, our organization was able to launch and include the much-needed voice of parents. We've heard from decision makers, business leaders, and philanthropists about the importance of high-quality pre-K. And so we really wanted to lift up the voice of parents. And so Parent Voices for Pre-K is simply a grassroots initiative to give parents that platform that they need to advocate for expansion. And so this year alone, you can see Jeana Bowman out of Orange Beach on this particular slide, both talking to her elected official, but also speaking at a rally that drew over 150 parents and supporters of high-quality pre-K at Voices for Alabama's Children's second annual Child Advocacy Day. So, our parents are doing everything from talking to lawmakers to attending budget hearings to doing rallies to organizing local pre-K meet and greets. And so their voice, your voice, for those listeners who are parents, it matters. And so we invite parents to share their story, to recruit other parents, to get involved in the legislative process, and also at the local level. There's a lot of work there that can be done to really educate and encourage local early childhood programs in your area to apply for a first-class pre-K grant if they are not already. And the biggest thing, Jeremy, is just having these parents be a spokesperson. And step one is to visit alabamaschoolreadiness.org and look for the tab Parents, where you can find a pre-K site, but you can also find a link to Voices for Alabama's Children's letter of support for parents.
Okay. And one of our panelists can speak directly to that. Christina McInnis, she's a mother of four from Baldwin County. She was part of a team that successfully lobbied to bring a new first-class pre-K site in Orange Beach. Christina, can you tell us a little bit about how that process worked?
Yes, absolutely. It was actually a wonderful process. It's exactly what Secretary Ross said the intentions of this program is meant to be. It is meant to be community ownership, and that is exactly what happened in the city of Orange Beach, and it started with one parent. I had 3 daughters go into preschool, and I was aware of the wait list that were occurring at the preschool, and I even worked with our headmaster at our preschool, and she informed me how many phone calls she was getting every day, turning away parents off of the island. And so we had Jeana Bowman with her sons having to drive off the island. She was one of the many parents that were on wait list for pre-K, having to drive off the island to get to the pre-K, and she began to ask, why do I have to drive so far to get to first class pre-K? Why do other schools and churches have it but Orange Beach? So this one parent voice in Orange Beach asked many questions, and I was very thankful she was put in contact with me. And she asked me all these questions, and I simply didn't have an answer. And so to help answer her, I began to dig and how can we, what is first class, Jeana? And this is a grant-based first class pre-K, and how do these schools and churches get this? And you apply for a grant. And she helped walk me through the Alabama Department of Children's Affairs. We had Jan Hume, we called her, emailed her. ASRA, we had Allison there, and she began to put me in contact. Steve McMillan sending emails. But most importantly, what happened is, I can't overstate enough the local side of how this started. It started with one parent who changed a community, and we went about that mainly through local government. We ended up pairing with Mayor Kennan and the council members, Jeff Silvers and Jerry Johnson, Jeff Boyd, and so many of our council members, Annette and Joni. And what we did is we got the city of Orange Beach behind us. They wanted a high level of excellence, and they were very aware of the much needed pre-K programs, the wait lists, and they wanted Orange Beach Elementary School to have a pre-K program, much like the other schools in Baldwin County. So their first statement was, how can we help? What can we do? So then we had the city of Orange Beach behind us, and I know I was on multiple emails where the Mayor Kennan and so forth was emailing the superintendent of Baldwin County Board of Education, Robbie Owen, how can we make this happen? And Robbie's response was, this has never been done before. And that excited the city of Orange Beach. Well, how can we be the first to do this? And so they pledged to stand up the 25% matching funds for us. And we were able to bring this program to Orange Beach Elementary School. And it was simply, as we've come about the different things that we've needed, the city of Orange Beach has stood up. Local businesses have come in to help. The Erie Meyer Foundation excitedly last minute came in to help with the playground. Baldwin County Board of Education, Representative Steve McMillan, and everyone has rallied around this. So one parent led to a local government, and we would go to council meetings and talk about it and inform other citizens, and then we began to do parent letters. We would be at the voting booth, or we would be at churches, and we would be getting parents to sign the letter of advocacy support. And so throughout all of this, the city of Orange Beach all came around and said, we want this program, and we're willing to be the first in Baldwin County to do it this way. And luckily, we were one of the recipients. And now we have it available on the island for the city of Orange Beach children. And I have seen it blossom into exactly what it was intended to do. I've seen it where the children that were on the wait list for our wonderful pre-K programs that we had, there was an incredible wait list. And so those children who were having to be shuttled into different families during the week in different locations and bussed all around are now walking into our elementary school every day with the book bags that are bigger than them, and we have the parents talking about how they're going to the school to talk about the book or different topics. And it has really been a blossoming effect for our city and our school to come together as a collaborative effort and really work together to bring this. And I'm very thankful for Jeana Bullman for, one, explaining what first class pre-K is, and then also giving me the many emails and phone calls to Misty Blackman and Jan Hume and all of the many different leaders that she led us. But it's impressive how one parent was able to change a whole community for this. And I'm excited that for many years to come now, children will have that pre-K program available at our school. And I want to advocate for continuing legislative funds to go here, because I now see what has happened to Orange Beach Elementary School by having that program. And I want to continue the funding and how that is helping with their early childhood development, and continue more so that, just like Governor Bentley said, every 4-year-old will have the opportunity to have this. So I look forward to working with, I've already had one of the daycares in Orange Beach contact me to talk about how she can apply for the grant this year. and I'm excited that we will hopefully be able to offer all of our children a chance to have this.
Do any of our other panelists have any examples of communities who've worked together in that way or in some other way to expand pre-K access?
Well, I would like to add, and I think it's very interesting that parents will find out about a first-class pre-K or be involved in one and then be able to use and talk about that model. And I know the model that Jeana Bowman had her first contact with happened to be in a child care center. So, you know, these first-class pre-K programs can be the grant process is for a diverse delivery system. So it may be a child care facility or a Head Start or a school or a church or a community center or even a military base. We've got several on military bases. So we do value that diverse delivery system, and as they begin looking at expanding more these grants, they can visit each other and learn from one another. And we are always available at the Department of Early Childhood Education to assist parents or groups or anyone that's interested. We do grant workshops, and we'll look forward to reaching out to anyone who is interested and would like to see more programs in their area.
Is there any other advice for parents who want to see first-class pre-K in their community? Anything Christina or the secretary maybe hasn't touched on?
Well, one, start with the principal of the school and first find out if you have a pre-K, and if you do not have access to the pre-K, find out through the principal if you can get, but it's just like Secretary Ross said, check with your church pre-K programs, your Head Start pre-K programs, any pre-K program, find out if they don't have it, would they be interested in applying for one this year. But don't ever underscore the local government. I cannot, there in the city of Orange Beach, I know we're a tourist town, but there is a whole family backbone behind us, and we're, believe it or not, a very small town, citizens behind it, and our mayor and council, they want what's best for our children. And to go to your mayor and council, they will help you find the answers you need that you might not have access to or don't know how to get. And I know in the city of Orange Beach, they helped us get any contacts we needed to help this process and continue. So do not be afraid of going to a council meeting at your city and finding out how you can get this for your school, or going to the education, Board of Education meetings. So if you don't want to try the city that you're in, try the Board of Education, and then try the pre-K programs. You have a bunch of different paths you can go through to help you find the information you need.
All right. We have been collecting some questions during the forum here today, and we're almost near the end of our presentation. I just want to say there's 76 people attending. It's almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday. I think that's really amazing. I think that really speaks to how much people want to see these programs expanded, and exciting for me because I have a 2-year-old and I want them to get in next time. So I'd like to bring Allison back to share some of the questions we received. And Allison, what have you been hearing?
I have a question from Mark Bond. He asks, are there any limitations on faith-based programs with respect to receiving a first-class pre-K grant from the state?
No. The only what was his question? What was his exact question?
Are there any limitations on faith?
Limitations. No. What we do when we work with faith-based programs is this: that during that 6.5 hours of instruction, there may not be any faith-based or religious activities, but anything that they do before school or after school, of course, is not considered part of that pre-K day. So the only limitations would be in that 6.5 hours, and of course the curriculum would have to be one that was based on our early learning standards.
Thank you. We received a lot of questions about the diverse delivery system for first-class pre-K. Kathy from Huntsville asked, how can the community and nonprofit organizations working with families help provide this program, help more children have access? And I'd like to add to that, what can the child care program do, and how can parents encourage their child care programs to be part of this program? Like, where would they start?
Well, I would have them start by first look on our website and get an understanding of what this program is, what the guidelines are, the program guidelines, the classroom guidelines, and it's just good practice. But it may take a while to grow to that point, and to make sure that they're willing to put in the time and effort to meet these guidelines, and then we would certainly be willing to work with them one-on-one. As a matter of fact, we were working with a child care provider near Decatur just a few weeks ago, asking the same questions. Actually drove to Decatur and visited, and I feel certain that they're going to apply for a grant when that cycle opens up again, the end of this year or the early part of next year. So I would just suggest that they learn about the program, they understand what the quality assurances are, and then contact our office, and we'll be glad to work with them.
I have a question from David and Florence. He wants to know, he gets some questions from his community, is this state-funded babysitting? He has heard from some people that, they didn't go to pre-K and they turned out fine. So why is it that pre-K matters now when, maybe it didn't matter in previous generations?
Hey, Allison, this is Melanie. I'll jump in there. And that's a very, very good question. What we know now that maybe we didn't know many, many years ago was that 90% of a child's brain is developed before the age of 5. So these are, in fact, the most critical developmental years of our life. And children don't get a do-over. You're only 4 once. And so I think the question, although I totally understand where it's coming from, I just would say that, the importance of high-quality pre-K is that it's entering into a child's life at that most critical point.
Poverty. When we have research that tells us that they are hearing 3 million less words than maybe children of parents that are in a better economic situation. So a lot of that can be made up or taken, the language expanded, vocabulary expanded in that last year before they start school, to get them ready to go to school and be where they should be, to learn to read and to do the sorts of academic things that children need to do now to be successful in school.
Susan from Baldwin County and another one of our participants has submitted a question about facilities for the first class pre-K program. And also our friend Nisha P. submitted a question. What are the facility requirements of the grant? And in places where they don't have the space, what can they do? Is there a state plan for building the physical capacity needed to house this program?
There are requirements for the space. The most basic being the 35 square feet per child. The other requirements are we do meet all DHR minimum requirements for child care facilities, so they can look at those, but those are just the minimum. We do go beyond that, but we have worked with facilities. We've got one pre-K class in the Black Belt that was in an old service station, and it's amazing how creative and what a wonderful place this is for children. It's right on their parents' way to work, and they're able to come by and spend some time with their children. But if you can make an old service station into a first-class pre-K, you can be creative in lots of other ways as well.
Now, are there state funds for that, or is that something that local communities have to do?
That would be a local community where the local community would decide or get together and see what they could work out as far as a facility. There are no state funds for construction or facilities at this point.
We have a question from Kim, and she asks, where might a parent find a pre-K classroom in their community?
There is, on our website, we have a map. First of all, we have a listing of every pre-K classroom in every county. We do have at least one in all 67 counties, but he can go on the website and be able not only to see that listing, but he can actually click on the county and find the location. It will pop up, and he'll be able to hover over it, and it's an interactive map, and be able to find that first-class pre-K site.
Great. Thank you so much, Secretary. I think at this time, in order to respect everyone's time today, I'd like to bring our webinar to a close. Additional resources from today's program will also be available at www.alabamaschoolreadiness.org/pre-K webinar. So that's alabamaschoolreadiness.org/pre-K webinar. Now, I'd like to give a special thanks to our panelists and to all of you for joining us. Thank you so much for your participation, and please enjoy the rest of your day.